Now, if you've been watching F1 since the Drive to Survive era around 2019 until now, you're probably only aware of this kind of Williams, the slow back-of-the-grid team. But for people like me, I started watching F1 around when I was already conscious enough to know what my surroundings are, so basically around 2010 or 2011. So to me, Williams are just this bipolar team who will be there one year and then the next year they will randomly fall off a cliff. In 2010, they were alright and Nico Hülkenberg got his first and only pole position. 2011, nowhere to be seen. Rubens Barrichello's last season as well. 2012, they were alright again. They did get a race win in 2012. 2013, again, nowhere. Bottas and Maldonado, that was an interesting duo. Then 2014 to 2016, they did have this era where they're quick enough to be on the podium every other race. In fact, some may argue that in some races in 2014, they did have the second best car, mainly because of the Mercedes engine, and Felipe Massa was actually able to get a pole position at the 2014 Austrian Grand Prix. Couldn't convert it though. Didn't have that great race pace. 2015, they could have won the British Grand Prix, just a colossal strategical failure that made them finish outside the podium. Massa gets his final ever podium in Monza that year, retires after the 2016 season, comes back because Bottas went to Williams. 2017 was the pairing of Massa and Stroll. It wasn't that bad for Williams, but compared to 2014 to 2016, it wasn't the best. And it was their last ever recorded podium to date, and no, I'm not counting the 2021 Belgium one. And after 2017, they were certified backmarkers with a lot of interesting lineups and drivers. Sergei Sirotkin, Robert Kubica, Latifi, Logan Sargeant. Remember Jack Aitken and Sakir? Truly one of the drives of all time. But in recent years, since 2023, they've been on the upward trajectory. And we're gonna take a look at that today. So let's jump straight into it. First, let's start off with the biggest reason for their downfall. Too traditional. I'll give this in the perspective of another sport I watch, basketball. Jerry Buss took over ownership of the Lakers in 1979, and over 33 seasons he won 10 championships, and is still the second most successful NBA team of all time, underneath this green pile of crap. And after his death in 2013, his daughter Jeannie Buss took over. And what happened the following season? They missed the playoffs for the first time since 2005. In fact, they wouldn't make another playoff appearance until 2020 when they traded for Anthony Davis. That was the only good front office decision ever made in the Jeannie Buss era. And it gave basketball fans this perspective at the time that the Lakers will be juggernauts going forward. And my gosh, is this record not that great ever since then. Now, people might think, she's a terrible owner. Well, she is a terrible owner, but why won't they just sell? Simple. They want to keep the family business running, which is why for the longest time, Williams was never sold and Claire was in charge. I remember her clearly stating in season 2 of Drive to Survive that she would rather drown in a well than see Williams ever be sold. She didn't really say that. I'm pretty sure she said something else. If I can find that clip, I'll insert it here. But traditions can't last forever, obviously, which is why in 2020, Jos Capito came in and was the team principal for 2 seasons, and they were pretty decent in those 2 seasons. Also, I'm not implying that Claire was a bad team principal. I think she did the most of what she could do with that Williams situation, because before that, they weren't that great either. Williams went pointless in 2020. I'm not sure if that's actually happened before. I'm gonna have to do a bit research, but they did go pointless. Russell did score points though in the Mercedes W11 after a big-time strategy botch, which would actually give us signs for the future, but we're not talking about Mercedes today. And look who caused that. It was Jack Aitken. That's so beautiful. So in the middle of 2020, they were sold to Dorland Capital, and for 2021, they scored points. Quite a few actually. Their first batch of points came at the Hungarian Grand Prix, with Nicholas Latifi finishing P7 and George Russell finishing P9. And if you remember that race, Latifi was running in the podium for some period of time. And at the very next race in Belgium, they finished on the podium for the first time since the 2017 Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Not really. Now in qualifying, George Russell was able to somehow slap that Williams on the front row of the grid alongside Max Verstappen by 0.3 of a second, which is not that far off considering their machinery, and it proved that George Russell is a quality driver. So for the Belgian Grand Prix, it was looking like an entertaining race. You know, it was so wet. A wet race in Belgium will bring guaranteed entertainment, like 2008, 2010, 1998. There was no entertainment. there was no race. It was cancelled. It was way too wet, and the FIA just let them do 3 parade laps so that they don't have to refund the fans, so technically they saw a race. So they just took the results of qualifying, gave them half the points, then boom, George Russell somehow finishes P2 in the Williams. But as much as I'm downplaying this podium right now, it has one redeeming quality. It was the last ever podium Frank Williams witnessed. Because if you remember, late in the year, Frank Williams passed away at the age of 79. Built Williams from the ground up, and at least he was able to leave on a positive note. But hey, George Russell got a podium, and it's their last till date now. I think they could possibly get one this season. Just saying. And in qualifying for the 2021 Russian Grand Prix, their form continued when George Russell qualifies P3. With a McLaren Mercedes on pole position, a Ferrari in P2, and a Williams in P3, this is just a reskinned version of 2001. And towards the end of the season, they were alright. They didn't score that many points. In fact, I'm not sure if they scored points after this. I'll check again. And their season ended with Nicholas Latifi starting the Third World War in the F1 community. But they finished P8 with 23 points. Hey, after finishing 3 seasons in a row as the bottom team, finishing P8 is a step in the right direction. Williams was looking bright for the future, but their best driver for the past 3 seasons was set to leave them by the end of the season for Mercedes. So Williams had to think quick of a replacement. You know, Bottas was considered. I think this would have been a better choice for Bottas' career, but instead they ended up with Alex Albon, which is still a really good choice, and it's showing today that it was the correct choice. Not saying Bottas would have been a wrong choice. Remember the Veloci video though? That was funny. But Albon, in my opinion, was the better choice. I was a bit skeptical at first because his 2020 was very weak, but here in DTM solves everything. And for the 2022 season, oh, well, that ain't looking good. Last in the standings, damn. Midpoint of the video, be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to hit 10,000 by June, but it's probably not happening anymore. I might have to move that goal to July. And also, follow me on Instagram, because why not? Trying to hit 200 there. That was pretty weird considering Williams are normally good to start off regulations. And there was also another major glaring problem with Williams that showed in the 2022 season. Ever since 2017, Williams have been bringing in 1 experienced driver and 1 paid driver. And sure, this formula didn't work for a while considering their car would never really be there, so they're just collecting funds from the paid driver while getting the same results they probably would if they had 2 decently good experienced drivers. But 2022 showed that if they want to make any progress, they have to stop this formula and try to find their own sponsors. And the perfect opportunity came because Alex Albon got appendicitis for the Italian Grand Prix, and his replacement was Nick De Vries, and he had a solid performance, finishing P9 in his F1 debut. So obviously for the following season, if they're going to get rid of Latifi, they already have an option there. It's staring right in front of them. But that guy decided to join AlphaTauri because the prospect of driving a Red Bull was there. Probably not likely, but it was still there, and this was the worst decision he could have possibly made, and didn't even complete the full season. So instead, they decided to pick up American prospect Logan Sargeant. I know he only finished P4 in F2 that year, but again, you can't really judge someone from their F2 results. Just look at Nick De Vries, as well as Jolyon Palmer. But any of you F1 fans who watched the 2023 season, remember how much Williams were promoting America? They put the Star-Spangled Banner on the engine cover of a British-owned F1 team. In fact, I'm a Leah Block fan. If you've watched my videos, you know I like her. Every night she walks right in my dreams since I met her from the start. But they definitely signed her with a lot of American appeal in mind. I guarantee you that. And if I sound American, I'm not American, by the way. I am proud to be a Jollibee person. And in Logan Sargeant's first qualifying session, he nearly knocks out the McLarens. What? I was really shocked at this, and I thought at the time, this man's gonna be a problem one day. And this was a pretty impressive debut for a rookie. Yes, Alex did score points, but he's a more experienced driver, so that's expected. I thought Logan was gonna have a pretty decent rookie season. That was not really the case though, was it? He got 1 point at the American Grand Prix, but it was a fraudulent point. They were disqualified. Hamilton and Leclerc were disqualified. He would have a few Q3 appearances throughout the season, but they wouldn't really amount to anything. In fact, in his first ever Q3 appearance, he crashed. So it really wasn't that impressive of a rookie season from Logan Sargeant, but again, he's just a rookie. Relax, you don't need to replace him for 2024 just yet. Alex Albon, on the other hand, everyone rode on the Alex Albon hype train, didn't they, in 2023? In fact, he was rumored to join Ferrari at one point. Never really came of anything. We know who joined Ferrari next, but still, Alex was great in 2023, and if it wasn't for Perez being so dumb in Singapore, he could have broke the 30-point barrier. So 2024, maybe Williams will get the development right, and now that Logan has a season of experience under his belt, maybe he won't be as crash prone, and maybe he can finally score some points. They did not get the development right, and Logan Sargeant was still very crash prone. And for the Italian Grand Prix onwards, Franco Colapinto will sit in that Williams, and he was great. He outscored Logan's points tally. But to be fair to Logan, I think he would have scored points at Baku because, Williams on a straight line is amazing. But yeah, Colapinto is also good, alright for the rest of the season after this. He was also very crash prone. That was another issue, but I think he did perform better than Logan. But as good as Franco was in the latter half of 2024, I completely forgot to mention that Carlos Sainz was going to be filling in for that second Williams seat. Because obviously, in that blockbuster move, Lewis Hamilton took his seat at Ferrari. So Franco is now a reserve driver at Alpine, and as of the time of recording this, he is going to be replacing Jack Doohan for the next 5 races. I don't know who's going to be their driver after the next 5 races. Maybe that's a video on its own. And this leads us perfectly into the 2025 F1 season. But before I talk about this, I have to talk about the biggest reason why Williams are on the uprise. James Vowels. I have mentioned everything else. Change of ownership, getting better drivers, but I haven't mentioned James Vowels. James Vowels left his strategy role in Mercedes in 2022 to move to Williams after Jos Capito's 2-year stint at Williams ended. Yeah, he only planned to have 2 years, and my biggest flex is I met Jos Capito in his final year for Williams, and people thought that this was a terrible mistake at the time for Mercedes to drop him because he was a pivotal point of the Mercedes domination, and now he's going to Williams. Everybody knew that this was the step in the right direction for Williams, and now it's showing. He's no nonsense. He knows what's wrong, what's right for his drivers. He completely shifted the team culture there at Williams, and it's paying off big time. This is their best start to a season since 2017, and they have already scored more points than they did in every season from 2018. They stand at 37 points right now. 2018, they had 7. 2019, they had 1. 2020, they had 0. 2021, they had 23. 2022, they had 8 points. 2023, they had 28 points. 2024, they had 17 points. It was a long, slow rebuild, like a King of the Fourth Quarter video, but it's going to be worth it. They're going to get a podium some point this season, I'm just saying. Williams are notoriously known for their good straight line speed, so shoot, maybe they could get one at Azerbaijan or Monza. I'll put $20 on it. And if any Williams reps are watching this video, please invite me to one of the races. I live in Singapore. You can invite me to the Singapore paddock, but if you wanna be kind enough, I can go to the Canadian paddock. I can go to the Silverstone paddock. I can go to the Spa paddock. I can go to any paddock. I know Carlos hasn't been great to start the year, but don't worry. He's going to pick it up at some point throughout the season. He's just getting used to that car. He's never driven a Mercedes power unit before. And as for Alex, all of you guys were calling him mid to start the season just because Colapinto had a few decent performances against him. What do you have to say now? Alex is an exceptional driver. I'm excited for what Williams has to show us for the rest of the season. Will they continue being better than Ferrari? I think Ferrari also deserve their own video. Yeah, Alpine and Ferrari need their own video. Let me know if you would like to see that. But as for this video, that'll be it. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.